And this guy comes over to the apartment thing. He was there for hours and hours. I turned to walk out, and then the beast called out, "Come in here." This is where things crossed over from merely disturbing to downright horrific. I braced myself and was ready to lose everything.
He said, "I used to date Olivia Munn. I banged her a few times, but I forgot her."
I was able to admit to these things, lie about me, try to defame me, and then keep getting more powerful.
Is Brett Ratner the next Harvey Weinstein? Ratner, known for directing box office hits such as Rush Hour and X-Men: The Last Stand, has been accused of sexual assault by 6 women, including Olivia Munn.
He's 38 years old and went after a 14-year-old female relative, someone who went to prison for hurting a child. There are people who get very mad at you for not helping them bury it.
Olivia Munn's move was so classless. She's gotten this far because of her looks.
I've been treated by some people as if I'm the one who went to jail. Every night I'd go home and cry. I try to do the right thing, and that's all I can do.
What happened to you with Brett Ratner on the set of After the Sunset?
Jim was out of his head busy, so he asked me to deliver a diet plate to the director's trailer. I was eager to help a new friend. I knocked on the screen door to the trailer, and when no response came, I tiptoed in. No one was around, so I gently put down the plate of food and turned to go. And then I heard, "Why so fast?" I turned and confronted a waking nightmare. Fresh from the toilet, the director emerged and disappeared into the back of the trailer. I turned to walk out, and then the beast called out, "Come in here. Don't you know who I am?" And this is where things crossed over from merely disturbing to downright horrific.
It was then that Brett Ratner assaulted Olivia.
She let out a startled scream and raced out of his trailer. When she told the man who asked her to make the delivery, Munn recalled of his response, "It wasn't a shock, it wasn't surprise, it was just, sorry about that." Munn said she called her sister, who urged her to speak to an attorney, but the lawyer she met with dissuaded her from going up against a powerful director.
Olivia had to speak up, but it only made things worse.
It's a scary thing, to come forward. The day before it comes out, there's all these legal threatening calls all day long.
And I had written a book, and I had written a chapter about it, and I disguised him in it for legal reasons. On his own volition, he claimed himself in that book, and then he went on to lie about me.
He said, "I used to date Olivia Munn. I'll be honest with everybody here. I banged her a few times, but I forgot her."
So many people believed Brett's lies and turned against her.
I think that Olivia Munn's move was so classless. Olivia Munn is constantly trying to prove herself. There are people who will say that, she's gotten this far because of her looks. She takes great offense to it. She's like, no, I've worked really hard. I deserve to be where I am. And then in her book, she talks about how she had sex with a bigwig.
That weekend that he had said these things about me and lied about me, it was one of the worst weekends ever.
No matter what Olivia did, Brett just kept gaining more power.
He admitted to it, people laugh it off, and they keep going, and he keeps getting bumped up higher and higher into these positions of authority and power. I was able to admit to these things, lie about me, try to defame me, and then just a few years later, he gets this huge few $100 million financing deal with Warner Brothers.
But she had fought too hard for her dream to let Brett take her down.
I have wanted to be an actress as long as I can remember.
I wasn't even hoping that he would just go away or that he would get fired. I didn't even think that was on the docket of things you can have. I'm I just want my name back. I had to take a lot of hits for that. The exhaustion, trying to get my name clear again.
But when more women started coming forward, Olivia realized she wasn't just fighting for herself.
I was on set in Vancouver. All the male actors are like, "Oh my God, you hear about Weinstein?"
Once one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood, tonight Weinstein is now behind bars.
I couldn't believe it. Felt different. I felt like there was a reckoning that was coming. It wasn't going to be just an article and then people were going to move on.
6 women have spoken implicating Brett Ratner in sexual harassment. These are women who had been silent about what they had gone through previously and decided to come forward following this domino effect that the allegations against Harvey Weinstein have had.
I'd be in meetings with producers and directors. I would always ask them, "Why do you work with him?" I was never quiet. I've never been the kind of person that you can silence.
Looks like Warner Brothers has cut ties with Brett Ratner officially.
But there were many women who didn't have a platform to protect themselves.
People that spoke out about Weinstein in the beginning that started this whole thing, they have been pushed out of their career. They never got their career started. They are all struggling.
Olivia thought her own fight had ended, and so she focused on helping others speak up.
I will be asked by different journalists to talk to different women who want to come forward about someone. A lot of times these women are afraid that there's going to be repercussion or there's lawsuits, and so they want to talk to me. And I do a lot of those calls.
And one day when she was counseling, she got some sickening news.
She said, well, what if I know about a director who hangs out with a registered sex offender? And I said, well, what are you talking about? And they said, oh, well, this director, my director on Predator, his best friend is this guy who was a registered sex offender. He was a 38-year-old man and then went after a 14-year-old female relative. And she tells me his name. And this guy, his scenes were with me. It was the introduction to my character in the movie.
When Olivia had let her guard down, she'd been blindsided by a predator once again.
And I remember the director said that we should rehearse together. Now, normally you don't really need to rehearse like a small scene like that. But I was like, okay, you know, I'm always down to like want to work out the scene. And this guy comes over to the apartment that I was renting. I felt so uncomfortable being around him. He was not leaving. He was there for hours and hours. And it just was so uncomfortable. But if somebody wants to share their platform and power with someone who went to prison for hurting a child, that's their choice. If they want to help that person, I wasn't given that choice. That decision was made for me. The way it all went down, it was really hard for me.
Though she knew how painful the backlash could be, staying silent would be worse.
I got off the phone, called my lawyer and my manager right away, and I told them. I said, we need to tell them to delete that scene. I had my reps call in and say, like, if you guys don't take this out, she's not going to promote it. When we do movies, we have this reach, you know, it goes everywhere. You know, there's people all over the world that see what we do. And just that tiny drop of fame can be used to hurt an impressionable person, and that's just not okay. I braced myself and was ready to kind of like lose everything. When I did call my co-stars, I got chastised the next day by people at the studio for telling them, and why am I not just keeping it quiet? I don't know how to lie about it. You know, I don't know how to pretend, and I just know how to be honest about it. It's a very lonely feeling to be sitting here by myself when I should be here with the rest of the cast. I think that people expected me to be quiet because it was my movie, but the truth is I don't care.
Despite all the pressure from the studio, she had the support of the one person who mattered the most.
Then the victim came out and thanked you, right?
And that was amazing. To not only have her come forward, but to do so about a situation that a lot of people kind of want to hide away from. And
the victim came forward saying, my name is Paige Carnes, former Jane Doe. I was not able to speak for myself when I was 40. I am eternally grateful for Olivia Munn's action. She spoke up for me. In turn, she stood for all who have suffered like I have.
I mean, when she said, you know, my name is Paige Carnes, former Jane Doe, I mean, it just broke me, because I just thought what she has been through to get to that place. And I'm so proud of her.
By speaking up for herself and other women, Olivia's strength was finally celebrated.
It's just part of who I am, and I'm never afraid of that.
Get any backlash over this?
There was no public backlash. Everyone voiced their support and their outrage, and it made me realize that, you know, we should have a lot of faith in humanity.
First, I want to start with Olivia Munn. Back in 2010, we actually covered this story, and I unfortunately called Olivia Munn classless because I was under the assumption that she just said disparaging things about him after having consensual sex. They never had sex. He had harassed her. Our commentary was based on bad reporting.
There's a consequence, and you can't hurt women. You can't disrespect them. You can't keep turning blind eyes and allowing this kind of abuse to go on.
I'm just so grateful that today it's different.
Everything is impossible until somebody does it. Be the one to change it.